You were never meant to chase. Let me say that again. You were never meant to chase love that walks away from you. You were never meant to beg for someone's attention, to explain yourself endlessly, or to sit in the shadows waiting for someone who already chose to turn their back. But how many men do just that? How many fall into silence after the breakup, thinking it's strength, when really, it's fear wrapped in hope? They wait, quietly, thinking that maybe she'll come back, that maybe if they stay strong and don't say anything, it'll somehow pull her back in. Let's get one thing straight. That's not strength. That's emotional limbo. That's giving her all the power while you sit still, pretending not to care, but dying inside. Right now, maybe that's you. Maybe you're standing at a crossroads, feeling like your heart got ripped out, wondering what the hell to do next. Should you text her? Should you explain more? Should you just sit in silence and hope she remembers what you had? No, my brother. You've got two choices in this moment. One, stay stuck in that cycle, waiting to be remembered by someone who already forgot you. Or two, become the man she'll regret ever letting go. This isn't about revenge. It's not about playing mind games or being cold. This is about transformation. Because you've got pain right now, and I get it. But what if that pain wasn't here to punish you, but to prepare you? What if everything you're feeling, the confusion, the betrayal, the anger, is fuel? Fuel to become stronger, wiser, more focused. To become the man who doesn't chase because he knows his worth. Let me ask you, have you ever seen what happens when a man fully steps into his power after heartbreak? When he no longer needs closure because he becomes the closure? That man, he doesn't wait. He doesn't explain. He doesn't beg. He builds, he rises. He reclaims every part of himself that he gave away. And that's what we're diving into today. This isn't just another breakup pep talk. This is your blueprint, your guide to mastering your emotions, to turning silence into strength. Not the kind that hides pain, but the kind that commands respect. The kind that makes her stop and wonder, did I misjudge him? You're not here to fall apart. You're here to rise up. So before we go any further, if you know someone going through this right now, a brother stuck in silence, unsure of what to do, share this with him. Like, comment, and hit subscribe. Not just to support this channel, but to help every man out there who needs to hear this. Because this isn't just about heartbreak. It's about taking back control of your story, not by chasing, not by begging, but by becoming untouchable. Let's begin. Let me tell you something most men never realize until it's too late. After a breakup, she expects the collapse. She expects the 2 a.m. texts, the I miss you voice notes, the long emotional messages trying to explain what went wrong, what could have been, what you're willing to change. That's the script. That's what most men do. They unravel. They lose themselves trying to hold on to someone who already let go. And she knows it. She counts on it. Because in that emotional fallout, she draws her power. Your breakdown? That confirms her worth. Your tears? That says she still matters. Your desperation? It gives her control. But then, there's you. You didn't send the messages. You didn't beg. You didn't explode, lash out, or spiral. You gave her nothing. Just silence. And in that moment, everything changed. See, silence is one of the most misunderstood forces on Earth. To most, it looks like weakness, like avoidance. But in truth, real silence is power. It's restraint. It's discipline. It's emotional self-control at its highest form. Because silence isn't empty. It's full of self-respect. It's a declaration without saying a single word. I will not give energy to what disrespected mine. And that shakes her. Not because it's cruel, but because it forces her to sit with herself. She's no longer distracted by your reactions. There's no emotional outburst to counter, no pleading to dismiss, no tears to soothe her ego, only stillness. And in that stillness, her mind starts to wander. Was she really that important to you? Did you move on already? Were you stronger than she thought? Was the connection real or just one-sided? And just like that, the roles reverse. You're no longer the one seeking closure, she is. You didn't post a quote aimed at her. You didn't subtweet your feelings. You didn't try to get her attention back with strategic moves. You simply vanished from her world, from her narrative, from her emotional grip. And that contrast becomes unbearable because the man who once gave her everything now offers her nothing. And here's the beauty of it all. You didn't play a game. You didn't fake it. You just finally realized you are the closure. Silence creates space, and in that space, she starts asking all the questions you used to ask. That's the paradox. The moment you stop reacting is the moment she starts reflecting. You took back your emotional energy and redirected it toward yourself. And make no mistake, that is terrifying for her, because now she sees a man she can no longer read, no longer predict, no longer reach. She expected drama. She expected chaos. She expected the storm. But you gave her calm. You gave her dignity in your distance. You gave her nothing to feed off of. And in doing so, you became untouchable. So if you're in that silent phase right now, don't break it. Don't reach out. Don't give her the performance she's waiting for. Stay grounded. Stay still. Because when you master silence, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, you become the man she never saw coming. Let's clear something up right now. Emotional control does not mean emotional suppression. It's not about becoming a robot. It's not pretending you don't feel anything. And it's definitely not about bottling up your pain and acting like nothing ever happened. Emotional control is about power, real power, the kind that allows you to feel everything without reacting to anything. See, here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men are emotionally predictable, and because of that, they're easy to manipulate. One text from her, and they crumble. A flirty photo on social media, they spiral. She disappears, they chase. She says something triggering, boom, instant anger. Sound familiar? It's like their emotional strings are exposed, just waiting to be pulled. But that's the trap, because the moment someone else can predict your reaction, they own you. Not your thoughts, not your body, but your energy, your peace, your power. Think about that for a second. If your mood rises and falls based on someone else's choices, are you really in control of your life? Or are you just reacting on autopilot? I'll tell you this, a man who is easily provoked is a man who is easily broken. Now let me ask you, what if you could change that? What if instead of reacting to the chaos, you could stand in it, unshaken? Because that's where real strength lives, not in explosive emotion, but in calm mastery. The man who doesn't flinch, the man who doesn't argue back when provoked, the man who doesn't chase when she pulls away, that man is dangerous, not because he threatens, but because he doesn't need to. That man knows something most never figure out. Silence is louder than shouting. Stillness is more unsettling than rage. Composure is more intimidating than any emotional outburst. Because here's the thing, when she pushes and you don't react, she loses control. When she tries to bait you and you respond with calm presence, you flip the script. When you stay grounded while she expects you to spiral, you shift the dynamic forever. This isn't about playing games. It's not about being cold or heartless. It's about choosing logic over chaos, peace over performance, and it's rare, which is why it's powerful. Most men think strength is about who can shout the loudest or who can win the argument. But true strength, true masculine strength, it's about who can stay calm when everything's on fire. Let me share something personal. There was a time when I was that guy, reacting to every text, obsessing over every story she posted, replaying every word. I thought if I showed how much I cared, I'd win her back. But what I didn't realize was this. Every emotional reaction was proof that she still had power over me. I didn't heal until I stopped handing her that power. Until I started showing up for myself instead of showing up to prove something to her. And you can do the same. You don't owe her a meltdown. You don't owe anyone an explanation. What you owe is peace to yourself. And once you master that peace, once your emotions belong to you and no one else, that's when you become untouchable. Let me tell you something that most people don't want to admit, but deep down, we all know it's true. We don't value what we think we can always have. It's human nature. The more available something, or someone is, the more we take it for granted. And in relationships, this truth hits even harder. Because right after the breakup, she expected you to chase, to check her stories, to send long, emotional messages, to wait around just in case she had second thoughts. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you disappear? What happens when the man who used to give her everything suddenly gives her nothing at all? That's when the real shift begins. See, silence and withdrawal, they aren't just passive, they're weapons. Not used to harm, but used to protect your energy and reclaim your value. Mystery is powerful, and when you pull your presence out of her world, you create a vacuum, a silence that screams, a space she can't stop thinking about. Because when you're no longer visible, when she doesn't know what you're thinking, where you are, how you're feeling, her mind starts filling in the blanks. And here's where reverse psychology kicks in. She starts wondering, why hasn't he reached out? Did I mean nothing to him? Is he doing better without me? And that uncertainty becomes the very thing she can't stop thinking about. Now let me be clear. This isn't about manipulation. You're not playing games. You're not trying to make her jealous with flashy posts or fake progress. You're just gone, detached, focused on your own healing, your own growth. And the irony? That quiet absence becomes louder than anything you could have ever said. Because the mind hates gaps. It hates unresolved stories. And when you don't give her closure, when you don't give her that emotional response, her mind creates its own story. She imagines you thriving, getting stronger, looking better, leveling up, maybe even meeting someone new. And none of that needs to be proven. You don't have to post about it. You don't have to show off. Your silence says it all. That's the power of withdrawal. And slowly, regret starts to settle in. But not because you begged her to come back. Not because you tried harder, but because you stopped trying completely. And now she's the one replaying the past, rereading old messages, questioning the very things she thought she was so sure of. And what changed? You. You flipped the script not with noise, but with nothing. You didn't lash out. You didn't try to make her feel guilty. You didn't make your healing her responsibility. You simply walked away and let your absence do the talking. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how the people who walk away without drama leave the biggest impact? How the ones who don't say goodbye often leave you wondering the most? That's not weakness. That's detachment with purpose. Because you finally realized your peace matters more than being understood. You're no longer playing by her rules. You're no longer available to a story that already ended. And that makes you a mystery. And mystery is irresistible. So if you're feeling the urge to explain yourself, don't. If you want to text her one last time, pause. Because the most powerful move you can make is no move at all. Let her wonder. Let her feel the silence. Let her deal with the storm she expected you to drown in. Because when you disappear from her life, she finally realizes you were never hers to control, only to value. And now that chance is gone. Pain does two things. It either destroys you or it builds you. And there's no middle ground. If you're listening to this right now, chances are you've been through it. The breakup, the betrayal, the sleepless nights wondering what you did wrong, the constant replay of memories, the what ifs, the should I have. I've been there too. And I want to tell you something that no one told me. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the forge. It's the fire you walk through to become someone stronger, someone unshakable. But only if you choose to walk through it, not around it. Because most men, they run from the pain. They drown it in distractions, nights out, meaningless conversations, constant scrolling, casual hookups, false positivity. But none of that brings healing. It just numbs the noise for a while. And when the silence hits again, the pain's still there, still raw, still waiting. But here's what I learned. And what I want you to feel deep in your bones. The man who faces his pain head-on becomes untouchable. He doesn't try to prove anything to her. He's not working out to make her jealous. He's not stacking money just to post about it. He's not faking success to win her attention back. He's building for himself, It's quiet, it's unseen, but it's real. Every morning that he gets up when he wants to hit snooze, that's pain becoming discipline. Every rep in the gym when his body screams to quit, that's heartbreak becoming strength. Every book he reads, every dollar he earns, every promise he keeps to himself, that's growth. Silent, powerful, unshakable growth. It doesn't show up in the highlight reel, but it shows up in who he becomes. And you know what's crazy? She eventually notices. Not because you posted something, not because you tried to make her see it, but because you didn't. And by the time she looks back, if she ever does, she won't recognize you. She left behind one version of you, but the man you've become, he's someone else entirely. Sharper, stronger, more focused, unbothered, unreachable. Because you didn't rise for her, you rose despite her. That's real healing. You're not trying to get even. You're not trying to show her what she lost. That's not power, that's still need. Real power is when she becomes irrelevant. Not hated, not resented, just no longer necessary. Because the version of you that needed her, that version died in the fire. And what came out of that fire? A man who doesn't need closure, because he is the closure. So if you're hurting right now, good, yes, good. Because pain, when you embrace it, is the most honest mirror you'll ever look into. It exposes your weaknesses, your fears, your emotional addictions. And then it dares you to fix them, to rise anyway. So rise quietly, relentlessly. And when they ask what happened to you, smile, because they wouldn't understand the man who was reborn in silence. This isn't revenge, this is rebirth. Let's talk about detachment, not the cold, bitter kind, not the "I don't care anymore" mask you wear to hide the pain. I'm talking about real detachment, the kind rooted in peace. You see, most people misunderstand what detachment actually is. They think it's shutting off your heart, pretending like you never loved her, acting like it didn't hurt. But true detachment doesn't mean you never cared. It means you've finally chosen to care more about yourself. It's not about punishing her, it's about protecting your peace. Because here's the truth, and I say this from experience, as long as you're still checking her profile, still wondering if she's watching your stories, still hoping she'll regret it and come back, you're not free. You're still emotionally tied to a person who may have already moved on. And that's not power, that's prison. But the moment you stop chasing, that's when everything shifts. You stop checking. You stop calculating your moves, hoping she'll notice. You stop trying to get her attention through silence, posts, or subtle hints. Instead, you genuinely stop caring. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, but because it's no longer relevant. You've turned your focus inward. You've redirected your energy toward your growth, your healing, your goals. And something beautiful happens when you do that. You become magnetic, not because you're trying to attract, but because you're no longer seeking. See, people can feel when your energy is no longer circling around them, especially someone who once had control over your emotions. She can feel it too. She feels the emotional cord has been cut, and now she's the one who's uncertain. The same woman who once knew exactly where she stood in your heart, now doesn't know what you think of her, doesn't know if you still care, doesn't know if you've moved on, or if you've simply outgrown her. And that silence, that stillness, it starts speaking louder than anything you could have said. Because when someone stops chasing what they once chased desperately, it forces the other person to pause. She starts to wonder, did I lose him completely? Has he changed? Why does it feel like I don't matter anymore? But the most powerful part is, you're not even trying to make her feel that. You're just being. You're living your life, focused, purposeful, grounded. And that's the essence of real emotional independence. You no longer look to her or anyone for validation. Your worth isn't tied to her reaction anymore. It's tied to how you show up for yourself every single day. No performance, no pretending, just peace. Let me ask you, when was the last time you truly felt free from that emotional tug of war? When you finally cut that last string, that need to be seen, to be remembered, to be missed, You start breathing differently. You don't speak as much, but when you do, your words carry weight. You don't show off, but people notice your presence. You don't chase attention, and yet you draw it effortlessly, because you've shifted your energy back to where it always belonged, with you. So if you're still trying to fake detachment, let this be your moment to let go for real. You're not doing it to get her back. You're doing it to get yourself back. That's not indifference. That's evolution. Let's talk about one of the most powerful responses a man can ever give. Not anger, not silence, but presence without emotion. It's called the cold shoulder effect. And no, it's not about being rude or bitter or cold-hearted. It's about becoming so grounded, so emotionally composed, that even when she finally reaches out, you give her nothing but calm, not heat, not awkward energy, not desperate attempts to impress, just stillness, polished, confident, measured, and completely unaffected. You see, when she left, she probably thought she still had a piece of you. She assumed that one day you'd see her again and your eyes would light up, that you'd fumble your words, maybe try to win her back, or prove how much better you've become. She expected something, anything. But when she finally sees you again and you give her that steady, composed energy, it breaks her because she expected emotion. Anger would have meant you still cared. Jealousy would have meant she still mattered. Even hostility would have said, you still have an effect on me. But neutrality, that tells her the emotional storm is over, that she no longer has access, not to your time, not to your thoughts, and most importantly, not to your energy. You see, true emotional detachment is not loud. It's not about making some grand announcement that you're done. It's when you don't need to say anything, because your actions and your calm say it all. She's left standing there searching for signs, trying to read your tone, your posture, your eyes. But there's nothing to read. No spark, no tension, no familiarity. She's meeting a stranger, and that is the most devastating truth for someone who once believed they knew every inch of you. Let me ask you, what do you think happens when someone realizes they no longer have influence over you? Not because of a fight, not because of a block or an argument, but because you simply evolved beyond them? That's what the cold shoulder effect is all about. It's not about rejection, it's about closure without a single conversation. Because she doesn't get to come back and check the temperature. She doesn't get to test if she still has pull. She doesn't get to stir up emotion and walk away again. Not this time. Because now you've mastered the art of calm detachment. Not fake indifference, real peace. The kind that doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't explain. You're not cold out of spite. You're neutral because you healed. And that's what changes everything. She expected to be remembered, but instead she realizes, you've moved on so far, you don't even flinch at her presence anymore. There's no performance, no tension, no spark, just a polite, empty smile, and the quiet confidence of a man who no longer needs to prove anything. And that's more powerful than any comeback line, any transformation post, any revenge body. That's peace, that's power, that's freedom. So when that moment comes, and trust me, it often does, don't try to impress her. Don't try to win. Just be the man you've become. Let your presence speak volumes. Let your calm silence say, this version of me doesn't live in that past anymore. She won't forget it, because when a man walks away with grace, strength, and total self-control, he becomes unforgettable, not because he screamed, but because he never needed to. There's a moment you reach in healing, when the anger fades, the sadness quiets, and the need to be remembered disappears. That moment is called indifference. And no, it's not bitterness. It's not pretending to be cold or acting like she never mattered. It's not ghosting someone to prove a point. True indifference is peace. It's waking up one day and realizing she's just not on your mind anymore. You're not checking her socials. You're not wondering if she's with someone new. You're not replaying the past, looking for where it went wrong. She's not part of your present because she no longer fits into your future. That, my friend, is real freedom. Because indifference means you've finally taken back everything she once held. Your thoughts, your energy, your emotional state, and you didn't do it by force, you did it by growth. She's not hated, she's not even resented. She's just irrelevant. Let me say that again, irrelevant. And that's not cruelty. It's clarity. It's the quiet power of a man who rebuilt himself so thoroughly he doesn't need to be seen, remembered, or validated by anyone, especially not someone who walked away. This is the level where most men never arrive, because too many stay stuck in that cycle, trying to show her what she lost, trying to glow up, post the wins, flash the changes, hoping she sees it and regrets it. But here's the harsh truth. If your growth is still about her, then it's not really growth. It's performance. And performance is exhausting. You're constantly chasing her attention, even in silence. But when you stop chasing altogether, when you stop trying to prove anything to her or the world, that's when you truly evolve. You become the kind of man who walks into a room and doesn't need to say he's changed. People feel it. She feels it. But by then, it's too late. Because the version of you who once needed her approval, that version no longer exists. He died somewhere between the pain and the discipline, between the heartbreak and the rebuilding. And what rose from that was someone stronger, someone focused, someone free. She wasn't your endgame. She was the lesson, a detour that rerouted you back to yourself, the mirror that showed you everything you needed to fix, everything you were giving away without boundaries. She was the spark, but you were the fire, and now that fire is burning in a new direction, one that doesn't include her. So if you ever see her again, and she reaches out, and she tests the waters, you won't react, you won't shake, you won't even hesitate, because you don't live in reaction anymore. You live in intention. You choose your peace over chaos. You choose your mission over memories. You choose yourself, finally fully. And in doing so, you become untouchable. That's the final level. Not revenge, not a second chance, not even forgiveness. It's indifference, silent, complete, unshakable. You're not healing anymore. You're risen. So here you are, after the silence, after the pain, after the storm, you're still standing. And not just standing, rising. Because you finally realize something most men never do. Your transformation doesn't begin when she comes back. It begins the moment you stop chasing, when you stop waiting for closure, when you stop looking back, when you finally let go of the version of yourself that needed her approval just to feel worthy. That's the shift. That's when the healing starts to become power, when the heartbreak becomes purpose, when the silence becomes your foundation, not of fear, but of discipline, direction, and inner peace. Let me ask you something honest. Have you ever felt more clear than you do now? More focused? More grounded? Because you're not running anymore. You're not performing for anyone. You're not showing up to prove something. You're showing up for yourself. That's the man you were always meant to be. Not the man who breaks when love leaves. Not the man who waits in the shadows for someone who already moved on. Not the man who begs for validation from someone who couldn't see his worth. You are the man who walks forward, without noise, without drama, without fear, untouchable. Not because you built walls, but because you built a life, a mission, a mindset, a daily rhythm that no longer depends on anyone else to feel whole. You've stepped into a new kind of power, and you didn't announce it. You didn't post about it. You just became it. And let me tell you this, it's not just about her anymore. It's about every man out there who's still stuck, still hurting, still wondering, how do I move on? That's why this message matters. That's why you need to share it, because you're not just helping yourself anymore. You're helping every brother who's silently suffering, waiting for a sign that he's not alone. So if this video shifted something in you, if you felt it in your chest, in your gut, in your story, then do this. Comment power below, so I know you're part of the few who are truly ready to rise. Like the video, it tells the algorithm this message is worth hearing. Share it with someone who needs to stop chasing and start becoming. And subscribe, because this is just the beginning of a much bigger journey. We're building a movement here, not just of men who survived heartbreak, but of men who used it to evolve, who stopped reacting and started rebuilding, who walked out of the fire and never looked back. You were never meant to stay broken. You were meant to become unshakable, focused, grounded, free. So now the question is, are you finally ready to become the man you were always meant to be? Let's rise together.